You're standing outside, barefoot on cold concrete, watching the sky pulse like it's alive. Your neighbors are there too. Mrs. Henderson from down the street, the kid from apartment 3B. No one says a word. Then the temperature drops, fast. Street lights blink once, twice, then go black. But the sky, it just keeps getting brighter. And then you see it, hovering. A huge figure hanging in the clouds like it's been there all along. Jesus, Krishna, Muhammad, depends where you're standing. But whoever it is, it feels personal, familiar, and somehow watching you. Its eyes locked with yours. And then comes the voice, not in your ears, but in your head. The time has come. One truth, one world, one order. You don't hear it, you just know it, like a thought that wasn't yours already waiting in your brain. And as the figure fades into morning, you know something's changed. And this isn't a prophecy, it's a production. Welcome back, everyone, to Paranormal Directive 13, your weekly paranormal podcast where we dig deep into the strange, the secret, and the stuff the government swears isn't real. I am your host, Matt, and today we're actually going to start by talking about the TikTok post from Monday that fucking exploded, and I tried to do a follow-up video and TikTok silenced me. So we're going to discuss that now, and then we're going to get into today's topic because they go hand in hand. So Monday, I make the post about Jeremy Corbell talking about the big lie that's coming, and that lie is going to be that there is a craft coming from the outer edges of space, and it is making its way here. And that is the lie they're going to tell us. And what they're going to do when we believe that lie, that's the question. So the post was exploding so fast that I couldn't really keep up with replying and commenting back and seeing what people were saying, but there were a few things that stuck out to me, and I want to address that and really explain to you what that post was, because it seemed like a lot of people missed the point. So first off, there was a lot of people saying that everything I was posting in there was from years ago. And that is simply not true. The interview with Jeremy Corbell is from January 18th of this year, 2025. So 6 months ago, almost to the day. The headlines that I screenshotted were from within the past week of when I made that post. Some the same day. So here's the thing. The stuff I posted was not old. It was very recent. Were the headlines all from reputable news sources? No, of course not. Some of them were, but some of them are not, and they're never going to be, especially in this topic. It's very hard to get this stuff in the mainstream news outlets. So there's that point. And then you got the people saying that Jeremy Corbell is a government plant, he's a government shill, this and that. Is it true? Maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really care. It doesn't detract from the point of what that post was about. And that post was about that there is a lie being pushed on us to make us compliant to something they want us to follow. It seemed the vast majority of people missed is that the lie is that there's a craft coming. So many comments, so many, were just saying, why is it moving so slow if they're aliens? Why isn't it here? They can move at light speed, blah, 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 blah. Bro, the craft isn't real. The craft is the lie. That's the whole point. The lie is there's a craft coming. There is no craft. We watched the headlines, and you can do this with a really simple Google search of interstellar object making its way towards Earth. You can see headlines of a comet, 31B or whatever it's called, making its way towards Earth. Very clearly described as a comet or asteroid or other interstellar body. Then you can see a switch of certain articles starting to spin the narrative that it could potentially be an alien craft. This is the bait and switch. This is the lie. They started with the comet, and now they're starting to slowly perpetrate the lie that it's a craft coming. And that's what it seemed a lot of people didn't understand. It is not really there. There is no craft. It is a lie. What that lie is representing is what we're going to get into today on today's episode. I explained all this in a TikTok follow-up post this morning, Tuesday morning, the day after I posted the Jeremy Corbell video. I explained all this that morning, and it got up to about 800 views, and at that point, it was yanked off of TikTok, saying I violated community guidelines for spreading misinformation. Whether that's true or not, I don't think anything I said in there was out of line. You just heard pretty much exactly what I said in that video. I also put in the video that maybe this distraction was from Project Bluebeam, which is today's episode. Maybe the distraction was from the Epstein files, because we all know they exist, we all know what's in them, and we all know the reasons why they're not being released. So maybe that's what flagged it. I don't know. All I know is it got flagged, it got silenced. I have appealed it. It has not been reinstated as of yet. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But now you guys have heard what that video said, what it was about, and the follow-up to the Corbell video. So, that being said, today we are diving into a theory so massive and so batshit bold that if even a sliver of it is true, we might all be extras in this weird special effects show. So we are talking about Project Bluebeam. It's a conspiracy about fake messiahs, telepathic broadcasts, and a world-ending alien hoax. So buckle up, because this is pretty intense. So let's start with the guy behind the beam, so to speak, the person who's really at the forefront of perpetuating and influencing this theory. His name is Serge Monast, and he's Canadian. He was a journalist, a poet, and a conspiracy theorist. Back in the early 90s, he claimed to uncover a classified NASA UN plan to fake the Second Coming and replace religion with a one-world dictatorship. And his proof for this was allegedly leaked documents, schematics, and a cryptic note that said, "They know you're watching, be careful who you trust." So in 1994, he publishes Project Bluebeam, outlining a 4-phase plan to dismantle belief systems, stage these fake miracles, and mentally corral humanity into submission. And then in 1996, Sergei died, a sudden heart attack at age 51, otherwise perfectly healthy, one day before he planned to release what he called the final piece, quote unquote. His wife claims that he got a call the night before. The caller said, "Tell your husband his deadline has been moved up," and then hung up. Just like that, it was gone. To Bluebeam believers, that was it. That was proof that he was silenced. End of story. They took out Sergei. Except it wasn't. Sergei's theory lines up suspiciously well with old Star Trek ideas. A 1975 screenplay called The God Thing and a 1991 episode of Who Watches the Watchers both revolve around faking divine events using technology. So was Sergei lifting these sci-fi scripts, or were they trying to prep us? Either way, the plot kind of thickens here. So let's talk the technology behind this. Before we get into the 4 phases that he outlines, we have to break down kind of the gear and technology they would use for this, because some of this, while wildly ambitious, does actually exist. Like holograms, for instance. Not the Tupac on stage kind, but atmospheric projections. As early as the 90s, military documents have talked about holographic battlefield deception. And patents exist for laser systems that can project 3D shapes into fog or particles. At MIT, they have displays that can move physical objects using sound waves or magnetism. And some of those research papers literally mention crowd control and behavioral modification. So while wild, they are not impossible. So here we go. Phase 1 is break the faith. First move is to shake up religion. And this isn't just about faking some ancient tablets. Sergey said Phase 1 was psychological warfare on a global scale. It started, as he claimed, way back in the 1960s with something called Operation Truth Seeker, which was infiltrating religious institutions, planting seeds of doubt, and softening people up. Then comes the drama, specifically earthquakes. Sergey said that the elite would cause artificial quakes near holy sites to uncover ancient evidence, scrolls, bones, documents, whatever, proving that religion has been a lie all along. Sounds kind of crazy, but only a little bit. Man-made quakes are real. It's called induced seismicity, and it's used a lot in fracking. Add in some advanced technology, and yet targeted tremors aren't out of reach. But then the real psyop begins. A coordinated media blitz with fake archaeologists discovering these heretical texts. Jesus was a clone. Buddha was a time traveler. Muhammad was a mashup of multiple people. Christianity itself was a Roman psyop. Each finding carefully placed, perfectly timed, and globally broadcasted. Chaos, doubt, and spiritual identity crisis, all delivered. So that is Phase 1, to shake up the religious belief. Now, Phase 2 is the big show in the sky. So this is the real big ticket item. This is where they get the name Bluebeam from. Massive 3D holograms in the sky. Not just light shows, but full-blown interactive religious visions tailored to the local cultures. Christ in Rome, Krishna in Delhi, Buddha in Bangkok, all speaking to crowds, all saying the same message. Unite, submit, obey. Sounds very Orwellian, if you ask me. The plan for this allegedly uses satellites, think Starlink, chemtrail-style particulates, and high-powered lasers to project these images. Real companies like Ariel Burton have been working on atmospheric imagery since the early 2000s. But what Sergey described goes beyond anything we've seen. City-sized avatars, visible in the daylight, with realistic movement, multilingual speech, and, get this, the ability to react to the crowd. So, yes, you guessed it, it will answer you. The theory says that the projections would scan heart rates, brainwaves, and even facial expressions to adjust in real time. Think of everything that we fear of a ChatGPT, OpenAI-driven robot with built-in surveillance being broadcast to a skyscraper-sized Jesus hologram standing in front of you. So yes, it is not happening yet, but the bones of this technology are in development. So there is Phase 2. So Phase 1, we disrupt the religious belief. Phase 2, we project into the real world. Now, Phase 3 is where it goes inside your mind. All right, so the holograms got your attention, and now it is time for them to get inside your head. Sergey said that Phase 3 was all about direct mental manipulation, projecting thoughts, emotions, and even sensations into your brain using electromagnetic frequencies. He called it neural pathway synchronization, and supposedly it's been developed by DARPA and Stanford scientists. Now, DARPA is another whole freaking can of worms that we can open up that has allegedly been involved in so many conspiracies. So that's probably an episode in itself to get into DARPA tech. But here's the idea of Phase 3. Everyone's brain has unique electrical patterns. And if you can map them with what Sergey called cognitive fingerprinting, you can send signals that feel personal, like a divine whisper that only you can feel. Real technology, like the transcranial magnetic simulation, can influence mood and behavior. And the military has been using directed energy weapons for years. Not so much in the Mountain Dew conspiracy of directed energy weapons lighting Maui on fire, but they have been using them. And the active denial system literally makes you feel like your skin is burning. But Sergey took it further. He claimed that existing infrastructure, phone towers, 5G networks, even smart devices, would form a global transmission grid. Your devices aren't just watching, they are tuning into your brainwaves. So here we are bridging this Bluebeam again into the 5G conspiracy, that 5G waves are dangerous to your health. So we are incorporating now the 5G conspiracy into Project Bluebeam. So this is a true mashup of stuff. But what's interesting with that, though, is that Bluebeam predates 5G by a while. To make that connection, that 5G, Sergey himself didn't actually say 5G, but that's what has been interpreted into it, that's what they're using to institute Phase 3 of Bluebeam is 5G. But they're doing this not to control you, but just to make you agree. Because if you agree, there's nothing to control. If they can manipulate your mind to the point that you will just say yes, then there's nothing to control. There's no force or coercion needed. Okay, so that is Phase 3. So to recap again, Phase 1, disrupt religion. Phase 2, project onto the world. Phase 3, control your mind. Phase 4, and this is where we look at what Corbell said, and this is where it relates to everything with that post on Monday that blew up, into why people are thinking what Corbell is talking about is Project Bluebeam in the works. All right, Phase 4. Now, Phase 4 is, you guessed it, the alien invasion. So religion is shaken, your mind is hacked, and now comes the closer, the one that seals the deal. A fake, notice that, fake alien invasion. Sergey said Bluebeam would stage a full-blown extraterrestrial assault. We're talking ships over cities, weapons in the sky, chaos in every time zone. But here's the kicker. Some of the ships would be real, but they were human-made, reverse-engineered craft using suppressed technology from decades of Black Ops projects. Some of the aliens wouldn't be actors or projections, they would be genetically modified humans built to look the part. Entire fake cities would be bombed with real explosives. Holograms would then finish the illusion, and in the panic, a solution would appear. A new world order, global government, total control. All to protect us from a threat that doesn't exist. So there we have it. Phases 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Project Bluebeam. Sounds science fiction, right? Well, maybe. Believers of Bluebeam point to events like the 2009 Norway spiral, which was this massive glowing spiral in the sky. It was a perfectly geometric blue spiral in the sky. The official explanation was a Russian missile failure. Except no missile debris was ever found. And Russia's confirmation came days later, after global speculation had already exploded and ran out of control. And then there's the Phoenix Lights back in '97, which will be an episode as well, but in short, was a massive silent V-shaped craft seen by thousands. The military blamed flares, which makes no sense if you really dig into the story, and the witnesses were not convinced, nor should they have been. And then you have the weird synchronized drone sightings in Colorado and Nebraska back in 2019. You have the New Jersey drones recently. You have the Pentagon's real slow drip of UAP footage, which their whole disclosure thing is exactly what Corbell was talking about, where they're disclosing slowly over time the truth, which the truth is that UFOs and UAPs and aliens are real. And then they are using that to prep us to buy into the lie of the fake invasion. The thought here is that we are being conditioned little by little, just testing the waters. They're doing a little bit at a time, some lights here, this weird thing in the sky there, some drones here. The United States government saying, hey, we have all these files and this footage of stuff that's real. And then you have very recently people seeing all the time these weird anomalies in the sky. And what do we hear every single time? There's this weird cloud of glowing light in a weird shape in the sky. Oh, it was a SpaceX launch. Okay, sure, maybe. But it sounds awfully similar to that Norway spiral of a failed Russian rocket. So, stepping aside, whether or not Bluebeam is real, the strategy itself that it outlines is terrifying. Each phase of it preys on us in some other way. A large section of societies need to believe in a higher power, which has been slowly withering away. Our trust in authority, which has been deteriorating, which kind of goes counterintuitive to this plan. But I think that's more of a coincidental side effect because of all the bullshit that we got going on right now. And I don't want to get into political stuff on this podcast because we're going to stay away from politics. But everyone's got to agree that for a while, here in the United States at least, things have been fucking batshit crazy for a long ass time. I am 37 years old. I am going on, my fourth once in a generation event. I watched 9/11 in middle school. I graduated high school right before the quote unquote once in a generation economic collapse. I lived through a nice global pandemic, which, to be honest, the pandemic was great. I loved every minute of COVID. Outside of the massive amounts of death and everything that personally didn't affect me, so my personal viewpoint on it is different. I got to work from home, and being forced to stay home was great because I don't like to do shit. I just want to come home and play video games and talk about aliens and ghosts and shit. So the fact that I legally had to do that, and also if I left the house, people had to stay away from me and no one could invade my personal space or they would get arrested. That was beautiful to me. It was great. But I do understand what it caused for society and what it did and everything. And I get why people don't like it. I'm just saying my personal experiences, I loved lockdown. It was great. But okay, so back to what we're talking about. So the trust and authority, which is something that humans do crave. We do crave to trust people in authority. We question them a lot recently, but we do crave to trust the people who are in charge. The fear of the unknown. We are all afraid of the unknown. Us in this space, in the paranormal space, are probably a little less afraid than most people. But I know grown adults. My wife is scared to death of the dark. She can't even listen to me record these podcasts because they freak her out so much. So the fear of the unknown is something that affects a massive amount of people. And then our desperate hope for safety. Everyone wants safety. Whether or not you thrive in a chaotic environment or you're good in unsafe situations, the default that everyone wants is a safe environment. It is wired into our DNA. You don't purposely look for fear. You might look for adrenaline, but you don't look for danger. So these four things that Bluebeam preys on: need to believe, trust and authority, fear of the unknown, desperate hope for safety. You don't need laser Jesuses if you can make people doubt what's real. You don't need a death ray if everyone wants to surrender. So where we are with Bluebeam today, it has gone fully digital with everything. There are TikTok videos like my own. There's YouTube deep dives. There are subreddits. There's also academic papers, military papers, DARPA programs. The theory is not just a fringe theory anymore. Even the government is talking about cognitive warfare. There is a CIA webpage for Project Bluebeam. We already live in a world where algorithms shape our belief and where perception beats reality. Our phones track our moods, our behaviors, and our fears and feed us what we want to hear. Bluebeam doesn't have to be a NASA plot anymore. It is already here. It is pretty much the internet. So that begs the question, is Project Bluebeam real? The actual plan was satellites and fake gods and a fake alien invasion. I am not sure, especially after the stuff that's going on now. This Corbell interview, whether you believe him or not, puts the narrative out there of this theory. If he is a government plant, why would he be putting out something that is going to make the masses scream, "This is Project Bluebeam, don't listen"? Why would they be trying to get you to think of this project if they're trying to implement the project? So that led some credibility to Corbell's interview. But here's the thing, the lie that he said they're telling and what we're seeing falls directly into the playbook. Religious beliefs, for better or worse, have slowly been declining. I myself am an atheist. I am not a religious person. So for me, I look at religion, and I'm going to quote one of my favorites, Jeff Winger from Community. I look at religion like I view Paul Rudd. I understand the appeal, and I wouldn't take it away from anybody, but I wouldn't stand in line for it. It's just not my thing. Not my thing. If that's what you're about, then good for you. Go for it. More power to you. I have no problem with someone having religious beliefs. But it is to be noted that religion has been on the decline, which is phase 1 of Project Bluebeam. The other pieces of this, the holography, the mass manipulation, the fear-based control, we see those every single day of our lives. Not on the scale of Bluebeam, but we see them happening. They exist and they are being refined every day, especially with the growth of AI. So maybe Bluebeam is real. It's just not playing out the exact way that Sergey explained, with giant fake messiahs in the sky, but of corporations and the government and everything else creating reality for us. We are so susceptible to everything that we see on our phones and on TV and everything that we live in a constructed reality, let alone the idea that maybe our reality is just a projection to begin with and we live in a hologram, and that's a whole nother deep dive. Maybe Bluebeam isn't the original thought. Maybe it's been tweaked. Maybe that was the original plan, was to have these giant holograms and stage the fake alien invasion. The fake alien invasion is probably still coming. They've been conditioning us. Look at Independence Day. Look at Men in Black. Look at all of these movies. What do they show us? These aliens come, the world joins together to defeat them. Sounds like Project Bluebeam. Because here's the thing. If they can shape what you see and what you hear and what you feel, they can make you believe anything, even a lie big enough to enslave the world. So that, guys, is the Project Bluebeam episode. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the Jeremy Corbell post description and what that entailed and really the explanation of everything, because I think the point got missed along the way of people thinking there was a giant alien craft coming. And again, I want to reiterate, in that context, that is the lie. The lie is there's a craft. There is no craft. There is a comet. We have seen the comet. There is no craft. And they are perpetuating the idea, or they are starting to perpetuate the idea of that comet being an alien craft, which may or may not be Phase 4 of Project Bluebeam. If you guys liked the episode, please go on your podcast app of choice and give us a rating, leave a review. It would be huge for growing the podcast. I have already seen from the TikTok post a big increase in views and downloads, and I am so appreciative and I love it, and it's fantastic. But we can go a step further and leave a review and leave a rating, because that is what's going to make us climb the charts on the podcast. And that is where we can talk about all of this stuff. Because as you saw on social media, things get flagged. And I can't really say exactly what I want to say on there sometimes. And here I can. So this is where I'm going to really lay out my real thoughts for you guys on everything. So if you can give it a rating, share the show, share the social media posts, that would be amazing, and I would love it. And again, to all the new members of the Directive, thank you so much for being here. And I cannot wait for you guys to come back again next week. We were going to do Dyatlov Pass today, but with the huge explosive growth of people talking about Corbell and Project Bluebeam, I felt that we needed to do Bluebeam today. I had to change it up. So Dyatlov Pass will be next week. I may, if I have the opportunity, I may put that out a little early for you guys, maybe do like an episode this weekend. So everyone who was really looking forward to Dyatlov Pass, which is a great story, doesn't have to wait another full week to hear it. And then we'll do another episode on Wednesday as usual. So you might get a bonus episode. Maybe not. I'm undecided. So keep an eye out for that. Also, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/paranormaldirective13. I post weekly minisodes on there of other little stuff. A lot of it is creepypastas and things like that. But there are some other smaller deep dives into some topics. The Mountain Dew conspiracies on there. That is a fun one. Check out the social medias, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all at Paranormal Directive 13. And then send an email, paranormaldirective13@gmail.com. Let me know any questions, any comments, anything you want me to take a look at. I would love to do that. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. And I can't wait to bring you another paranormal case next week. And remember, guys, whether you like them or not, what Corbell said, that is the lie they're going to want you to believe.